Third is that because it's an extraordinary situation, the army is extended on the ground and therefore to a certain extent are performing law enforcement actions. So there is a recognition again on the part of the government that there is necessity to transfer the law enforcement functions to police because the army do not investigate, it's the police that does. The army does not preserve evidence, it's the police that does. So and also that the police needs to transform or reform. There is now a transformation program of the Philippine National Police, but added on to this process in the agreement is the creation of an independent review commission of experts named by the parties in order to be able to take the best practices abroad under similar conditions as what we have there in Mindanao, and then also to get the responses from the public, collate it, and therefore make recommendations as to how to help out in the reform police. At the end of the day, it is to make the police more professional, make the standards higher, and of course maintain its civilian character. And finally, the last component would be to look at the judicial system, to look at the trust of the people on their courts, so that instead of resolving differences by simply taking an Armalite and shooting your opponent, that they would go through dispute settlement process legally recognized, either indigenous, through Sharia, or through the local civil courts to be able to settle their problem. This depends upon the trust that they can have on the law that is created, and therefore that's why it's important that the law must be created as close as possible to the communities to which it is implemented, hence the idea of an autonomous region.
You're talking about massive reforms. I mean, you're talking about governance, security, all things that the government has been trying to do but has failed so far to really implement. This is simultaneously, this will simultaneously need to happen as you're pushing forward legislation. Where's the army that's going to make all of this happen? How will this happen?
Well, first, the difference is government is doing it right now, but with this framework agreement, government will do it also with the Moro Islamic Liberation Front.
Yes, we're hearing them speak as part of government now. It's an interesting change.
As government and as their communities are following their leaders and are starting to think about how it is to correct the bureaucracy and so on and so forth. Okay, and the other one is it cannot be done by one person. It cannot be done by the president alone, and therefore to usher in an era of hope. This concept of ushering an era of hope, peace, and recovery, I think is also very important. That people now will say, probably, this solution should be allowed to work. And then the next question should always be, what can I do to be able to help out? From the ordinary student in Metro Manila that will try to survey their opinions about Moro, Bangsamoro, to the actual community members, perhaps in a sitio in a barangay in Datupiang, in Maguindanao, to be able to determine how it's going to vote and what political affiliation it will have in terms of the 2016 ministerial elections. Then to the police to try to review whether its processes and procedures are appropriate to the culture of the area.
How long is this process going to take in your mind?
Well, we're hoping that significant political developments can happen by 2016, which means that the law is passed prior to that and that there is a ratification of that law
in a plebiscite.
The MILF had a particular request of the Pinoy administration. They said, we do not want that implementation be left to the next administration. We trust you and we want you to show that sincerity by actually delivering within your administration. So we told them that we need an agreement at the soonest possible time, if that is the case. Perhaps during the first third or first half of the term of the administration, and we are right on schedule. So a framework agreement, a transition commission, the delivery of a Bangsamoro Basic Law approved by the President, the ratification, the installation of a ministerial form of government, and prior to the assumption of a new administration who will build on that legacy and therefore work the other details that may be necessary in order to complete the peace process.
How would you gauge Chairman Murad, the chairman of the MILF, his ability to hold the group together and shepherd them through this process?
Chair Murada's leadership, he is principled, he is charismatic, he has a very clear ideology that is made clear to all the leaders of the MILF. but I would also characterize him as pragmatic, as a pragmatic leader. He knows where they are in terms of their history. He knows that they can only make history at this point by entering into a kind of agreement that does not sell down all the sacrifices that they've had, but at the same time, again, re-examines the proposals of government. Because on government side, it is really what can be doable based upon the experience of many of our bureaucrats. So I would characterize him as a principled, yet a pragmatic leader that has a vision for his people, that is always problematizing what will be done and what can happen to the thousands of followers of the Moro Islamic Liberation Front.
Many of the areas in ARMM are actually now predominantly Christian. And in the 2008 MOA AD, one of the major problems that came up were the Christian landowners who were afraid for their land, who were against it because of that. How do you deal with that?
We addressed that very clearly by a statement that was made by the MILF. Through the statement made by MILF, we pounced on that. That the MILF from the very start, even during the MOA AD, had always recognized that private vested property rights are to be respected, full stop. And therefore, what they simply wanted was, if there is no other legal remedy to correct the injustices of the past as to property ownership, that perhaps the government, which includes national and the Bangsamoro, would find ways and means to actually recognize how the lands got into the hands of other people, and at the same time, if it is still possible, based upon evidence, to find ways to compensate it in so many ways, either by recognition or pecuniarily. I think that falls under the rubric of what is called transitional justice, which both parties accept. There has to be a healing process. And that is the other part of this agreement. A healing process, because you do not want future generations to carry the baggage of hatred and stereotypes and bias, etc. People have to understand that a Muslim is almost the same as a Christian in terms of how they generate opinions, what books that they may read, how they fall in love, how they will work, how they want to become rich. And it is not the religion that actually matters, but really how one participates, their political affiliation, and so on and so forth. So the MILF has told us we do not want a distinction that is based upon religion. So we do not want an Islamicized state.
Yes.
We acknowledge that we have a predominant faith, and perhaps that is going to inform the people that will govern in the area, that they are believers in Islam, that we believe in its principles, but the government will not be Islamic, and that there will be toleration of religion in the area.
But it will still be Sharia law.
Sharia law will govern only Muslims. And only when both parties are Muslims will Sharia law govern. Okay. Of course, Sharia law will be subject to the Constitution in the sense that there are provisions on the Bill of Rights. And happily, Maria, I think there are scholars that say that there is a harmonization of some of the rights that are contained in the Bill of Rights.
Yes.
The basic rights that are enumerated in the fundamental framework to an Islamic legal scholar would appear as the same basic concepts that could be found under Sharia law. And coincidentally,
but Marvic, it will need someone like you to reframe the debate, because this is highly contentious globally.
Yes, definitely. There are many legal systems in the world, and all of them are pluralistic, including ours. There's three big systems here: the Anglo, the civil law tradition, and finally, the Islamic tradition. We have Presidential Decree 1083 on the Code of Muslim Personal Relations, and the creation of Sharia courts contained in our present Organic Act for the ARMM.
This is a question that came in from @Ainsley T. About the MNLF. Who had the better deal? Will the MNLF want to renegotiate?
I wouldn't look at it that way. I would look at it from the point of view of, on the basis of their historical context, the MNLF got what they got. On the basis of the historical context now of the MILF got what they got. The MNLF did not have a Pinoy, did not have the configuration of a cabinet that we have right now, did not have the configuration of a Senate. The senators then did not have the experience of the senators that we have today. Nor did the leaders of the MNLF have the same experience as the MILF. So I would guess that maybe I would look at it as, did the MILF get the best deal that they could get under this present administration? And also, on the other hand, did the government get the best deal that it could from the MILF?
Yes.
And my answer to those two questions is, of course, yes.
But right now, actually, there's still a long way to go. There's a possibility that the law may be extremely divisive. It could not be passed in the plebiscite. What happens? Is the MILF prepared for these? Both sides are taking a risk.
Yes.
What happens?
Of course, every debate can cause hardened positions. But on the other hand, having a framework peace agreement to guide that debate means that there is a common objective. People are reminded that this is because they wanted to stop the armed conflict.
Yes.
People are reminded that this debate should not go on forever, that there should be an actual practical solution that will be felt in the lives of people, perhaps within the same generation. So we're hoping that that kind of impetus will put limits to that kind of debate. And then finally, it's up to the people. We vote for people that will make decisions in Congress. And perhaps as an appeal, in the next 2013 elections, for the positions of the Senate and the House of Representatives, I guess people should try to look at people that make sense, men and women of substance, who can understand what is happening in Mindanao. And by this, I don't only mean the representatives from Mindanao. I guess the representative to be voted in the various districts in Quezon City.
Yes.
And maybe that is one way that people can contribute to this framework agreement.
How do you feel, Marvic, after a year and a half on
Well, I guess common among the entire panel is exhaustion, because the last round was really a full 6 days. And for me, I had to go back and here and then go back to Kuala Lumpur. But I guess the general feeling also is things got a little bit more complicated now. Now that it is out there,
Yes.
now we have to respond to the public. And we are heartened by the fact that there are many other people that get it and try to explain it better than us. Rappler, for instance, many of the other columnists have weighed in and have very nice insights, insights that we would not have. So at a certain point, may be relieved, because at least now it is out of our hands, it's out there in the public. And when it is signed, it has to be owned, and owned by people that will want to understand it. So, and then maybe after relief, maybe the next stage would be for the panel to actually move on, finalize the annexes, and then complete the agreement. And then again, the same process all over again, complication, relief, and then letting go of the entire process.
So this starts a new cycle, at least with where we go next, creating
Yes.
a law. Okay, Marvic, last thing in terms of the main pitfall that needs to be avoided now.
Ignorance and lack of understanding, and doing critiques without actually reading the framework agreement and understanding its context. I think fear, paranoia can drive political positions which are wrong. But information, understanding, and context can perhaps lead us to make the right decisions. And we do hope that this time around we become a mature electorate and make the right decisions.
Marvic Leonen, thank you so much.
Thank you.
We've been speaking with Marvic Leonen. He's the head of the government peace panel with the MILF. He is on Twitter. It's at Marvic Leonen. You can also send questions to @OPAP. They're very responsive. This is a process. This is just the beginning of the next phase. We'll keep watch. See you again on Talk Thursday.